look at CC, and all you're doing with CC is you can turn it on at the start of the meeting, and then you can turn it off when the meeting is over, and you can also turn recording off. And I'm not sure how much you're going to be recording what you're doing, but I actually think it's a really useful thing to get used to doing as a teacher, because you never know when a kid might cut out halfway through, and then they might need the rest of your lesson to look at another time. I've sort of gotten to the point where I'm hitting record by default now, apart from now. This time, of course, it just seems like, I've got my little yoga figure here that says, record sessions, to try to remind myself to do that, because I'm doing so many of these right now. So let's,
yeah, that was really helpful last week when I couldn't make this meeting, and then I went back and was able to do the video.
Yeah. Right. And the idea is that we're going to keep doing these meetings no matter how few people show up, because at some point more and more people are going to show up, or people will come in and out as they have problems. So I'm going to turn off the captions right now. And then there's the present button. Now I'm currently presenting, so you can see that it says you are presenting. And when you hit the present button, you get the choice to present just one tab of your browser, your entire screen, or your entire browser. And Meet are going to be giving us even more options for that too. That's coming in either September or October of this year. Next up are what they call the three little dots, or there's a name for this, and I forget what it is now, but in the very bottom right-hand corner, there's the stop recording button or the start recording button if you want to record what you're doing. There's the change layout. If I hit change layout, I can click on auto, because that's pretty much what I'm on right now and nothing changes. I can go to sidebar, and you all will disappear up into my sidebar. I can go to Spotlight. I actually really don't like Spotlight, because what Spotlight does is Spotlight is voice activated. So it will show the picture of the person on screen who's talking. So when you're in a classroom of kids, that's a nightmare. It just flickers and it will drive you crazy. So never, ever have it on Spotlight. So here I go. I'm going to go to change layout, and I'm going to go to tiled. All right. Now, Google Meet currently allows for, I think it's 14 tiled layouts. You can see 14 students at once. And we tried to counter that when we were first going remote in March by installing the Google Grid extension, which has been great, and it still works. You can still install it. But what happens is every time Google Meet updates, and it's updating a lot right now because they're adding so many new features, then the grid extension breaks, and the guy who made the grid extension so that you can see your whole class on the screen has to then go back in and change his code so that it matches with the new version of Meet, which is why it's so frustrating. And people are like, oh, well, my Meet extension's working, my grid extension's working. And then somebody else is like, well, mine is really not, so that gets confusing for people. But I'm happy to say that I think as of September, it's going to happen in September, you're going to be able to see 47 people at one time in Google Meet. So no more Google Grid extensions will need to be installed, because I don't envision us, well, maybe if we have a staff meeting on Meet, we probably still have to have that. But I actually don't mind it, because at some point on Zoom, you don't get to see everybody either. You have to scroll through different pages. Right. So not too bad. Okay. So yeah, that's the view I'm in right now. I'm on tiled. I quite like just being on auto, because it usually goes to tiled for me, but you can make your choice in that. Then we have full screen. What that does is when I hit full screen, you won't see it because I'm presenting to you, but it's like going full screen in a browser window. It just takes up all your space and you can't see your background desktop. It expands the window to that. And I'll do it now. So it's completely expanded, and then I can just hit exit full screen and go back. It's great if you don't want to be distracted or accidentally click on something on your desktop. Turn on captions. You can turn on captions from here too. Settings. That's a really cool one. I like this. And there's more options coming here. You can see the first one is audio. And there's the microphone I'm talking to you on right now. If I had other microphones connected to the computer, which I do, you can see I can pick what microphone I want to use. Okay. Same with speakers, which is what's coming into my ears. I've picked the current iPhone headphones that I'm using, and I could pick from a variety if I had attached them to my computer. Video, this is my laptop camera. It's a high definition camera, and you can see what's interesting is if I had more options, if I had more cameras, I could actually select between one of the two of them too. Also, send resolution. Now I can change the resolution on that. I can change it to high definition, 720p, right? And I can also change my receive resolution to high definition, 720p. Now, what that means is the higher the number, the sharper and the better the resolution you're going to get. It's like high definition, right? So here's something that you can do if you're working with students and either you or they have a bad kind of connection. Make sure that what you can do is do this. You can go into the setting and you can reduce the amount of resolution they need. And that might help them with a shakier connection. And it might help you if you have a shakier connection and you're really not receiving them. That's a new feature that Google have put in. I typically keep mine on high definition until somebody says, oh, you're having a problem. And you can see on the receive resolution, you know how we've sometimes had issues when people have been presenting and playing a video?
Right.
You can see here that there's a standard definition, 360p, one video at a time. Or you can go to audio only so that you only hear audio. All right. So that's a really nice little feature that they've added, and I'm glad they did. And they're also working really hard right now to figure out how to maintain connection, even if people have really terrible internet. Google are putting serious time into trying to engineer a solution to bad internet. So that makes me happy as well. So that's settings. Use a phone for audio. When I click on that, you can see that, there's a call me tab where you can, Meet calls your phone so you can use it to listen and speak to the video call. So if for some reason your computer dies on you, you could enter your phone number and the meeting would call your phone, and that would be a way for you to join an audio. And then there's also a dial-in tab. So you use your phone to listen and speak to the video call. Same thing. It gives you a PIN to put into your phone so that you get into the meeting securely. So that's what that button does. It's pretty handy. And then there's the report a problem. If you have feedback on Google Meet, you can fill in this form, report a problem, include a screenshot. That's pretty handy. Report abuse. Another one, if I can't imagine it would ever happen in one of our calls because they're not public. But for example, this meeting is a public link. If somebody came in here and was abusive to any one of us, I could fill this out automatically and Google would trace them all the way back to where they came from.
Great.
Good. And then there's just the help, which I'm not going to click on right now. All it does is take you to a Google help page for Google Meet, which if you're somebody like me who doesn't really do very well with help pages and clicking on links to understand, it won't be much use to you, but you should know that it exists. Okay. And now we're going to move up to this top part. You can see here, there's 4 people in this Google Meet. There's me presenting, there's me, and then there's you and Cherie. And that's how you know who are in, you can see who's in your Meet down the side here. Then there's the chat tab that you can, type a message in. And there you go. And you can flip backwards and forwards between the two. And if you don't want this sidebar in because it's taking up too much real estate on your screen, you can just click out. Okay, yep, we got another message. I can see there, hi guys. And it makes a sound usually when somebody types. And then here, that's your show everyone, that's your chat. There's the time. And then this is you up, this is me up in the corner. One piece of me is presenting and there's my little avatar talking away there. Now, typically Google Meet, you will not see yourself on the screen unless you have installed an extension like Grid. Then you'd be able to see yourself just like you see everybody else. It kind of unnerved me a bit when I uninstalled Google Grid extension and I wasn't able to see myself anymore. But now I'm quite happy just being this tiny little thing up there because I see myself way too much on videos right now. And that's pretty much it for Google Meet as it is right now. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my PD folder, and I'm going to show you a couple things that I'm going to re-show you when we get to PD. Okay, so
Excuse me.
bless you. So I wanted to go to, let's see, launching in September. Can you see this?
Yep.
Yes.
So launching in September for Google Meet, a larger tiled views with a 7x7 grid, so you can see up to 49 students at once. And also, I'm happy to say, when I asked them to put Jamboard into Meet, they've done it. So Jamboard is going to be a collaborative whiteboard that is in Google Meet. You don't have to go out anywhere to get to it. You're probably going to see it as a tab up here that you can click on, and you'll be able to write on it. Students will be able to write on it. That's coming in September. I'm really excited to see that.
So Tracy, I have a question about that. So
Sure.
I was trying to do math using Jamboard. I mean, I attached it to my Google Classroom and would pull it up together.
Yep.
And with my Chromebook, should I have a stylus or something? Because my big fat fingers do not do anything that's comprehensive.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you. I don't have a stylus and I struggle too. Having a stylus is great for stuff like that.
So if I was to buy something like that, how much do they cost?
Well, you could get what's called a Wacom tablet, and I'm actually just gonna go to it and have you take a look. The best ones usually tend to be the Wacoms.
Okay.
Excellent stuff.
Let's go to wacom.com. But you can get I don't know how cheap these are these days. Okay, so you can get really small ones, a simple natural one. If we go to shop for that one, I'm not sure how much we're talking. Let's see. Okay, that's too expensive. But these are the top of the range. But you can get something that are similar to that. Like if we just go to pen tablets, graphics tablets, Amazon, right? So you can get some fairly simple pads that it's not, the Wacoms really have a graphic interface. That's why they're so expensive. I used to have a Wacom that was just like this, but I don't think they make them anymore. But if you look at this, for $40,
They don't.
for $40, you get the pen, you get the pad, and you can write and draw on that. And I'm actually considering suggesting that for maybe buying, if we can get a hold of them, maybe buying 10 or 20 of them and just giving them out to students who need to practice writing and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So that's how you would use Jamboard. Students are pretty adept, and certainly if you're in Sherry's age range, and for some reason maybe Bonnie Schumacher wants to use a Jamboard because she's fairly avant-garde with her stuff. Kids who are on iPads will just be able to use their fingers.
Nice.
So you can actually watch how a child forms a letter.
Right.
Okay.
Good.
So that's the Jamboard part. Launching in October, there's going to be a blur or replaced background so everybody feels more comfortable during distance learning. You can disable a custom background if you want to as a teacher. So if a kid puts on a background that you feel is inappropriate, you can get rid of that.
Oh.
But I think it's a nice feature to kind of blur out a background. Because, I've noticed that a lot of other kids are always looking at what other kids have got or are doing.
Right.
So that's a pretty good feature to have. Attendance tracking is going to be dialed inside Meet so that you can see and track which students attended virtual class.
Good.
And that's going to probably track back into your Google Classroom, and you're going to get data that you're going to be able to keep on that.
So can I ask you a question about that?
Sure.
I watched a few YouTube, Google Meet videos over the summer, and a guy was presenting, saying, he was showing how to do attendance, and he was showing how to, a number of things that you're saying are coming out in September and October. How was it that he was saying?
He was using an extension, and I'm going to get to that.
Okay.
I'm going to get to that. Don't worry. So the other thing, yes, I know I'm presenting to everyone. Thanks, Google. The other thing that's coming are sorry, what'd you say, Amy?
So what I'm hearing from you is that we won't have to be adding extensions. It will just come up with our Google Meet naturally.
Yeah, you won't have to unless you really don't want to wait and you want to, employ an extension. And I'm gonna talk about that in just a second.
Okay.
Breakout rooms are coming to Google Meet, so you can
Nice.
split classes into simultaneous small group discussions. So that's pretty exciting. These things are coming in October. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. And then Meet features launching later this year, which basically means before Christmas. Hand raising to help you identify students who may need help or have a question, so they're not really interrupting your flow as a teacher. They're going to learn how to just click a button and it will raise a hand. And that might stop you in your tracks and you might say, okay. Q&A features to provide a way for students to ask questions without disrupting the flow of the class discussion. There's going to be a polling feature too. So as a teacher, if you want to make sure that everybody's understood what you've said, you could do a quick poll and say, okay, so what year did this happen? Or which word is an adverb in this sentence? Right. And have everybody respond to you that way. So that's pretty cool too. It's nice to see Meet getting so much more functionality for education. That's pretty exciting. Now, to speak to your question, Amy.
Yeah.
So the 49 student seeing thing isn't going to happen until September. So if you still want to see all your students, you're going to use Google Meet Grid View, right? Until the point that Meet updates. That's why I made this section be coming soon to Google Meet versus extension to use until it does. So that's that. We know about that one. Raise your hand, right? If you wanted to give your students some cool stuff to do in your Google Meet, there is an extension called Nod Reactions for Google Meet. Students can clap, raise their hand, or LOL during your session. All right. And I know it might seem sort of annoying for you to do, or you don't really see the point of it as an adult, but we're really trying to drive fun, interactive content for students. So do what you can do is basically what I'm saying. And then
just a funny aside, I was teaching this summer and Alexis was helping out with summer school. All of a sudden I see in the chat, she writes, "Preach it, Miss Rokicki, preach it."
Yeah, there you go. It's good to allow them to do that, I think. Okay, so coming soon again versus what to use, and this is what you were specifically talking about right here. Meet attendance.
Okay.
That's what that guy was using. It is an extension. And I actually found this page or this company called Claycodes that have a whole lot of Google extensions that are really cool. I included that on this presentation, but we can go to the website right now. And there's the Meet attendance extension.
Great.
There's record to slides, record videos and automatically load them into the slide you're on. Photos to slides, slides timer. So if you make a Google slide presentation and you want to put a countdown timer in there, you can do that. Okay. Meet chat transcribe chats directly into a Google Doc. Like these, there's a whole slew of cool stuff here.
Very nice.
So yeah, I'll put that in chat for you, Amy. You can take a little explore.
I've already written it down. Yeah.
I'll just link it for you so that you can maybe bookmark it as a page.
Thank you.
There you go. Take a look at that. It's pretty awesome stuff. Then Jamboard, if it's not implemented, and it's not going to be implemented in our first few weeks in September, but you can always use Google Drawing, or you can use a company called Whiteboard FI. And again, you're going to be getting this presentation like on Monday or Tuesday of next week, so you'll have it and you'll be able to go through all these resources. So don't worry too much about taking notes. The other thing I put
we used Jamboard this summer in class.
It's fun. It's fun. Yeah. Okay. Meet etiquette. This is a handy little infographic that I came across that you can send out to parents and students. And again, I put a link in here. We can look at it a little bit bigger. You can download it. You can send it out with your welcome back to school emails. And it's just a suggested guide about muting, questions, contributing, your turn, where to look, stay attentive. Like, I think all those things will be useful as a back to school remote learning package. So we can use that. And then Google Classroom. I know it's a different piece of software to meet, but Amy, you'll be pleased to know that you're going to be able to see a lot more metrics in Google Classroom moving forwards. Be able to see stats that help track how students are interacting in the classroom each day. So if you have students that really are not bothering their butts, you're going to see that in a much more obvious way. Deeper integration with other teaching tools. So Google have realized that Classroom is now mission control, basically for a lot of schools. So they're really trying to make it easy for you to integrate tech tools into classrooms, which is great news for all of us. And also mobile offline improvements. They know that internet connections, like I was saying, are not always steady. And there's this whole TechWity movement. So they're really trying to work to make them much better, even with sporadic connectivity. So that's pretty exciting as well. This tool is going to be really useful for families as well. It's a bit dense, but it is really, really useful. Like this is a one-page document, and it's for educators to read and send out what they want to families. And it has stuff like Google for Education video series. So if I click on this, it takes me to an introduction to all of these things for families, like Google Meet, Google Classroom. They can watch, look at the timing on these videos, very short. So you could have them watch a video on, I would give them this as a resource and say, hey, if you want to bone up on this stuff, because you're going to be helping your student. If that's your end goal. And I think that's the end goal of most parents. So yeah, very, very useful. Let's click back, and there's also a Google Terms glossary where, it explains what all the different symbols are. There are links for every single symbol. It's an incredibly useful document in its own right, even for teachers, I think. Best practices for family engagements, and tech facts, right? So tech facts is another, how do I access Google Classroom? How does my child sign in? And I also have a presentation that I'm going to give to you guys to share with families. We don't want to overwhelm them with information, but you need to know what you can share to families when they need help. And if they really, really need help, they can come on here or they can contact me one-to-one as well. I love this resource. It's a great one. And then, more details. If you ever want to find out for yourself what's coming to Meet in Classroom, you can simply go to Google's blog and you can see the dates and the times of when they're adding features, control for moderators, interactivity in Meet, all the features, helping students and instructors stay on top of their work, new, easier ways to join classes. I couldn't live without this blog. It's very, very useful to me. Certainly for staying on top of this stuff. And then, there are, presentations that I found, like this guy did a presentation on, how to video calls, just what I talked to you about. How do you start a video call, Cherie? How do you name a meeting, join now, invite others, other options, turn camera off, like comprehensive stuff that people might need to have. So you're going to get this presentation next week in its entirety. But yeah, there's a lot of good things happening, a lot of new things coming. And one of the things that I've been using as a resource, and I've asked the school to buy a few copies, but I suspect everybody's going to be, asking me to photocopy mine en masse if they don't want to buy it themselves. I bought this myself over the summer. It's called the Chromebook Infused Classroom.
Oh, nice.
Very, very, very useful tool for a classroom teacher who's doing remote learning and who's trying to make their work, their learning patterns much more interactive for students.
Nice.
You can buy it on Amazon. I think it's probably around $25, $26, but it's a useful tome. Let me tell you that. So we're at 5 after 7. What do we want to, is there anything you guys want to talk about specifically when you're thinking about what's coming up next week? I've already told you about the format of the PD. You're going to be in smaller groups with me, and each small group is going to get 6 hours of tech. So Amy, you're going to be with David and the rest of the MYP teachers. And I've also included Marianne and Eric in that, because I feel like grades 3 and 4 they've been using Classroom a lot. They've really been using it through remote learning, so they're in a different place. Cherie, preschool, K, grade 1 and grade 2 are going to be with you guys, and they're switching.
Yeah.
They're making the switch from Zoom to Meet.
Right.
So we're going
Right.
to be focusing on how they navigate that change. But for
Yes.
you, Amy, you guys were using this all along. So what I'm really looking to do with you guys is spend that 6 hours really figuring out how to make the most interactive, compelling content for your students, how to deliver your lessons in a way that's going to be exciting for them. Just giving you
So
some tools.
One of the things we used as a collaborative tool this summer was Padlet, which was
Padlet.
great.
I love Padlet.
Yeah.
You
So
got to
that
look at Wakelet.
Wakelet,
Wakelet. Yeah.
Wake.
Yeah. Am I still sharing my screen? I am.
Yeah.
Wakelet. Okay, everything in one place. Save, organize, and share content from across the web. Basically, students can create free accounts. And what Wakelet is it's basically, you can go in as an educator too. Sign up, it's free. There's an educator's guide on there. What it does, Amy, is it allows students to collect resources all in one place.
Oh, nice.
And then they can, they can unleash their collection. They can save their collection and share it with you. So if you, for example, instead of them having them do something fairly ordinary, like just provide you with a document on a subject where they normally would write an essay on a Google Doc, you might change it up and say, okay, I want you all to create a Wakelet around this subject. And then you can share your Wakelets with me. So you're giving them like much more agency to do stuff.
Right.
So yeah, we're going to talk about a ton of different tools, not to overwhelm anybody, but just to give you choices to like fit with your learning style or your instruction style as a teacher. Cherie, you got questions?
I don't have any questions pertaining to what we're talking about right now.
Do you have
But
other
I do
questions?
have a question as far as, does anybody have a school calendar that they can send to my email? Because I do not have one.
Well, you could go to the new website.
And then I've been in there, and the new one, as of I think yesterday, wasn't in there. However, Amy, maybe you can answer this question. We're starting on Monday. Are we in building or are we on Google Meet?
I can answer that question for you. So first thoughts were, I think that you would have the option of doing socially distanced PD in Fisherman Hall, but that has now been taken off the table. So now it is a combination of, you can come into the building, into your classroom, and do your PD on a device in there, if you have a device that you're bringing into school, or I believe you can be at home and do your PD at home. Now, I don't know if you got it, Cherie, you likely didn't, but Tim did share out a sheet asking everybody where they would like to take their PD.
Sherry signed it.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I got that. Yeah.
Okay.
But I didn't hear any feedback, so I didn't know.
So that's my understanding. If you signed up to take it at home, you'll be taking it at home. If you signed up to come into school, you can go into a classroom, your classroom at school, and take it there.
Oh, okay.
So I guess it's up to everybody, and depending on, how they're feeling about everything that's going on.
Yeah.
So
all right.
that's,
Thank you
that's
for
that.
Yes. Thank you.
And, I had a conversation with Tyler this morning, and you were here last week, Cherie, and Amy, you watched the video. There was a parent, I believe her name was Alicia Scott.
Yes.
She had a question because they live really in the wilds, I guess, and they don't have access to cabled internet. They had a hotspot. They're using their phone hotspots. We found out something this week that, was interesting, in that if you use a hotspot to connect, and they had a really good one, they had like a 50 megabits per second connection down. Here's the problem with hotspots, though. There's usually a data limit on them. And I've been doing some research into data limits today to find out what an average household would use in a month, for example, and it's extraordinary. Like, if you can only play 13 hours of Netflix video, and you've already used up 50 gigabytes of data.
Right.
Now, what happens with a hotspot is once you've used up your data, it goes to the lowest possible
Right.
connection. They actually
Right.
start to throttle your connection. So
Right.
I feel like we're going to have to figure that one out, because I don't. You really have to contact your phone service provider and see if you can either get your limit extended, and I don't know how expensive that is, or figure out how much data you're actually using on a daily basis when we're doing remote learning. That's a
and
metric.
she's working for the park. Are they living in park housing? Is that the
I'm
issue?
not sure, but she said that they couldn't get, like, they were looking at satellite as an option, but Hughes satellite is enormously expensive, and even the satellite restricts the amount of internet that you can use every month. Once you've used it up, that's it. You don't have a connection anymore. It's ridiculously expensive as well. So, I really think we need to work with the Scott family and figure out some solutions for them, because we can't just put in a hotspot when there's nothing to feed off, right? And their phones are going to be limited. So we really need to work out, and they might need, as a family, to have it worked out for them. They're going to find out how many hours or how much data their children. How many children do they have, Amy? Is it 2?
I think they have 2 who are school age.
Right.
I mean,
So
yeah,
they're
2.
going to have to figure out how much data that's using up on a daily basis and sort of adjust accordingly. So it may be that we might have to have some synchronous and asynchronous learning for them, unless we can come up with an internet solution that works. Maybe they can get some assistance with that. I'm not sure, but it's certainly a challenge in an area like this.
So, I in my basement, it's big, and
Right.
I'm going to get something to sort of boost the internet there anyhow. I've
Okay.
already moved the modem to have it be more centrally located.
Yeah.
And maybe she drops them off in the morning, picks them up in the afternoon, and they come.
So that's an option too, right? And the other option is that we set up a completely sterilized area in school, where just 1 or 2 children can be like 30 feet apart. I don't know. I'm not going to say that that's something we'll do, because that's obviously a policy decision, but that is another potential creative option.
Yeah.
Did you look at your internet speed?
Yeah,
Amy?
my speed is fine. But the modem was, somebody happens to be staying in my house this summer who's worked in the computer industry for years, and she was actually fine with it, but I had 5 guys who wanted to rent it out in September, and they were very interested in what the speed was like. So she said, if I move the modem from the bedroom into the living room, it's going to really help things be more centralized and help different parts of the house that aren't getting great service. So apparently it has. I haven't been back in my house yet.
Okay. So that would be a thing for you to check out as well and see, I don't know what kind of service you pay for, but, just make sure
I have the Internet Performance Pro, and I was going to go up to the first gigabyte one.
Yeah, you should.
Doesn't seem like it's that like $20 more a month. It seems worth it.
Yeah. I mean, I pay a ridiculous
I just upgraded to that too. Yeah.
Nice, Sheree. I like that. I mean, if you can afford to do it, it's the way to go. And unfortunately, Comcasters seem to be the way to go here, even though I hate to sound like a Comcast shill, but it's just going to be a better connection than Verizon DSL. DSL is a phone line. At least Comcast is the cable line that's backed by fiber. So here's hoping. And we actually have fiber internet at the school. We're a municipal building, so it's so great to be in school and see the ridiculous kind of speed that you get there.
Yeah.
I'm in Chatham at David's for the summer, and they're putting fiber out on the telephone poles this week.
Yep. Yeah. Nice. But Verizon, becomes better than Comcast when you get down to the base of the Cape, and you can get Verizon Fios, which is basically fiber Verizon, but it's not available up here, and I don't know if there's plans to make it available. It's really one of those things where rural areas just get overlooked.
Yeah.
because it costs so much money to put the infrastructure in place. But hopefully, eventually, we'll get it. And everybody, no matter where they are. I mean, I was
they're
shocked.
going to upgrade, but they don't know when.
Right. I was shocked when I moved to Truro. I was really worried that moving out here was going to be the internet sinker for me. And
Yeah.
actually, I have far higher speed than I ever had in
good.
Provincetown.
Oh, good. Good.
Where are you in
So-
Truro, Tracy?
I'm in North Truro. I'm just past Bayberry Gardens on the
Okay.
left-hand side, up in the woods.
Oh yeah, up near
Wow.
Killarney.
Yeah, but I'm directly off Route 6, so I'm probably benefiting from the fact that the cable's running just a short distance from Route 6. So I feel very lucky about that.
That's great.
So I think, my intention with this Tuesday night thing was to find out what people really wanted to find out about or talk about. So I'm happy if you want to come with questions every week and we can just do a short question and answer session. It doesn't need to be an hour. If you have stuff that hasn't been covered in school, or, there's a problem erupting with what you're doing, or there's something that you just don't understand, this is a forum for that as well. So spread the word with all of your colleagues and your families. That Meet link is universal. And I'm actually going to show you, I'm still screen sharing with you. I'm going to go to the new website right now, and I'm going to show you where to locate the Tech Talks, because it's not on the front page. We're trying to keep our front page really simple. So the
Looks
information
nice, by the way.
on the
Really nice.
Thank you. So the information on the front page is, just the stuff that families need to see. But if you want the Tech Talks, you can go to the For Families tab and go to the weekly Tech Talks. And that's where you can join the weekly meeting. You just need to click and it will go into Google Meet for you. Or you can copy and paste the code. You can copy this code and share it out to families. Make sure they have it. That code is not going to change now. So this is a dedicated link.
Great.
And you can also click on the weekly talks on TechTube, because we're going to have our weekly Tech Talks on YouTube. I put last week's talk up here, but I don't want to just list them endlessly. So I created a separate YouTube channel where you can go, and that's the first week. I'll put the second week on tonight or tomorrow morning. And then those will just be a resource for us. So that's basically where to go. Use the For Families weekly Tech Talks, and you can find all the resources that I supplied. If I supply resources, those will already be listed as well.
Tracy,
So-
last week you had a Google form thing where we could put in questions that we had or things that we wanted to have.
I
covered.
did.
Did you get mine, by the way?
I did. Yes, I did. Let's take a look at that right now. I can go to my Google Forms and see that we're covering everything.
So do you expect to put something like that out on the webpage, or?
I could do, if you think it's appropriate. I mean, I'm wary of overloading families, but if it's your choice, you could go there and submit questions. That's actually a really good idea. So I will do that, Amy. I will put up a form that you can just go into at any time and leave a question. So here we have responses, questions. Let's go to yours. Individuals. And you are Amy.
It might be in there as Amelia.
There you are.
Yeah.
Okay. So, sounds like Chromebooks are ready to go for new students, but we need to connect with Egger for pickup. The answer to that would be yes. And I'm trying to get an answer on when that's going to resume.
Okay.
Should be pretty soon, and I would imagine it will be made very clear to us next week. But Tyler and I are, rounding up all the Chromebooks and making sure they're in good shape. And I want to make sure, because I want to make sure that our new students get Chromebooks first before they go to anybody else. So we're really well aware of that. Who enters new students into the system and gives them a school email address? That would be Tyler.
Okay.
He is handling all entering of email, and he's keeping tabs on that system. So Tyler is your man. He takes care of all new staff, and he will likely be entering all of the new students once he's been given a comprehensive list. And we're fairly close to nailing that down right now. Excuse me. You used Jamboard Online this summer. Yeah, I'd like to be able to write on it with a tool. Yes, get a stylus. And in some cases, Amy, I don't know. I think you always need to get a pad for underneath it, because the stylus needs to communicate with the pad. So the screen knows what's happening. So that's why you can't just get a pen.
Interesting. Okay, I didn't realize
Yeah,
that.
at least I don't think so. I mean, you could
Yeah.
do some research into that. Maybe that's true. Google Tools videos over the summer has led to believe the Google upgrades of mute all taking attendance. Oh, well, we discussed that, right? So
Yeah.
the mute all, the mute all is coming in September, I believe.
Okay, is that an extension now?
No, you cannot. Okay. That's functionality that's core to Meet that you can't really put an extension in place for.
Okay.
But mute all is coming. So yeah, and with extensions, I'm going to turn this off now that we've addressed that, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen too. There we go. So mute all is definitely coming, and that's going to be super useful, as we know, as teachers. I mean, that was one of the harder things, I think, for teachers to deal with, because Zoom provided that functionality so naturally, and you can imagine a kindergarten or a preschool class without that feature. I think it would be pretty hard.
Yeah.
So, but I have to say, I was impressed with how quickly even the little kids picked up that etiquette and figured that stuff out.
Can't
right?
imagine it.
Right? I mean,
they're great. Yes.
It's just a different way of learning. We're going to step up our game even more from where we were, in March onwards. And, I just look at it as an opportunity. It's an opportunity to do things differently for a little while. And that's okay.
Yeah.
So, I'll put that form in place tomorrow, hopefully, Amy. And then people can just key in with questions, and maybe they're not there. They'll get an answer too. So,
the other thing that I'd like covered and maybe some decisions made on it, realizing that it's not your decision, but using the grading feature on Google Classroom, I think is really important. We did so much sort of recording in other places last year that was completely unnecessary, that we could, just be doing it there. And I worked really hard to give kids instantaneous feedback, and I think
that's a very important piece of it. It's about involving the student in their own learning process.
I think that's one of the reasons why it felt successful for me, because they were getting the feedback. They had nothing else to do but read the feedback for the first time, and then they responded based on the feedback. It's like,
I mean, I think
has not been there.
I think, I remember when I went to school and I had absolutely no involvement in my grades other than to either sit a test or, do something in order to get a grade. But it felt like such a remote concept for me.
Exactly.
And I think that's the problem with grades. We need to kind of make grades relevant, right? Yeah. It's like you're invested in your grade because your grade is a representation of you.
And I thought it was so great this summer. I didn't do it every day, every night over the summer. I, would do it more intermittently. And Andres would be emailing me saying, "You haven't graded this yet for me. You haven't given me any feedback yet."
That's exactly what they want, right? That's exactly what you want to see. I mean, in some ways, I think that, we've gotten to this point now where maybe, and this again is maybe my fantasy land, I'm not sure, but in my ideal world, I like to think that maybe kids have gotten to the point where they're hungry for the knowledge now, right? Because they're not in the situation where they're in school being force-fed every day. Maybe now we get a chance to see their natural appetite for learning coming in. And I think that could be incredible.
Well, thank you for doing this at your dinner hour.
Yes. On that note, on that positive, upbeat note, we shall end for tonight. And I'll see you guys on Monday virtually. We'll be back in school.
Nice to meet you. Take care.
Have a good night.
Nice to see you. Bye.
Thanks,
bye, Sherry. Thanks for coming.
How do I click out of here?
Now you're gonna go to your leave call right in the middle there. At the very bottom of your screen, Cherie.
Yes.
On the white bar, do you see the telephone, the red telephone? You just click on that.
Yes. Okay.
Just push the button, and I'll see you later.
All right. Have a good night.
You too. Bye, Cherie.
Thank you.
You're welcome.